Alright, hey guys, let's talk boxing. Let's cover a different fight. I was going to do another video on Joshua Fury, but I've done several videos on that already, so I thought something else would make a change. So Billy Joe Saunders versus Canelo. What do you guys think? Do you think do you think he's got a chance of beating Canelo? Let me know in the box below if you think Billy Joe's got a chance of beating Canelo Alvarez, and what would the game plan be? How would it look like? So before I get into talking about my predictions on the Billy Joe Canelo fight, I just want to say I'm a Billy Joe Saunders fan. I've always liked Billy Joe Saunders. I've always thought, you know, when you can sense with some fighters and some people, you can just sense that they're special, that they're on a different level to a lot of the other boxers, and I see similarities with Billy Joe's style with Joe Calzaghe. Joe Calzaghe is one of my favourite fighters of all time, right? Probably my favourite fighter of all time is Manny Pacquiao, second Joe Calzaghe, and then there's quite a few different fighters that I like Leonard Hearns, obviously Tyson Fury, Lennox Lewis. You know, there's other different fighters. I can't think of all of them now. De La Hoya when he was in his prime, Barrera. Anyway, so I see some similarities with Billy Joe's style, with that really slick southpaw style. Very good at moving, very smart, great angles, fast hand speed. Obviously, he's not completely like Joe Calzaghe. I'm not saying it in every way, but there's some similarities with that skillful southpaw style. The only thing I don't understand, which I've been trying to work out for a long time, is why hasn't Billy Joe Saunders had the bigger fights? Because he's such a talented fighter. Obviously, he's a two-time world champion. Obviously, he's beaten some good fighters, but I always felt like, why didn't he beat some of the American fighters? You know, just to get his name up there more. And it's weird to say that, because we say get his name up, but everyone knows who he is. He's very famous in terms of the name and the brand, but I just feel like he should have had bigger fights by now. And I just feel for him to beat someone like Canelo, and I heard Tyson Fury speaking about this, and Billy Joe was saying that he needs more momentum. He needs to go into the Canelo fight with that confidence, you know, off the back of some big wins. You know, maybe beating Demetrius Andrade, or beating Caleb Plant, or probably not going to get the Charlo fight, but that would be great if he could fight one of the Charlos and beat one of those, right? These are top fighters. Then he'd go into the Canelo fight with even more confidence than what he's always had. Also, not to mention the ring rust. You know, who has he fought in a while? He's fought Martin Murray. No disrespect, obviously, Martin Murray was a tough fighter and he should have been a world champion, right? Got some dodgy decisions, but Martin Murray was old when Billy Joe fought him. That fight was really just to get the rust off, right? Obviously, he couldn't take the fight lightly, right? But Martin Murray wasn't the same. We got to be honest here. I've got to talk. I've got to speak the truth. So I just think going into the Canelo fight, after fighting Martin Murray and not having any other fights, to build some more momentum, to get sharp, to get completely match fit, like Fury was saying, is such a disadvantage. I'm going to come to Canelo in a second. So always liked Billy Joe, watched all of his career, you know, when he beat Eubanks, when he beat John Ryder. I followed all of his fights from the start, and I just thought he's such a brilliant fighter, great talent, very hard to hit. Obviously, the main performance everyone knows, the David Lemieux fight. To be honest, I didn't even know who David Lemieux was until he beat him, but great performance. And then some of the other performances, he's not looked as sharp, but I think he's similar to Tyson Fury. Billy Joe doesn't really get up for the lower level fights, and that sometimes must be difficult for top level fighters when they're fighting fighters when there's not much to gain and they know they're going to win. But yeah, it's several years ago I was really confident Billy Joe could beat Canelo. I really thought that he can beat him. He's got the confidence, he's got the style. But seeing the way that Canelo has just progressed and just looks unbeatable, I really can't see anyone beating Canelo with the form he's on and how he's just been destroying everyone, and he's just going up and down the weights like it's nothing, you know. Let me just get into the recent fights. I mean, all the British fighters that have tried to beat Canelo and failed, and I've supported every single one of them. Of course, I'm always going to support the British fighter. I always want Canelo to lose, right? So Matthew Hatton, he beat Matthew Hatton, right? Who went the distance. He beat, destroyed Rocky Fielding, beat Liam Smith, beat Callum Smith, both the brothers. Who else did he beat? I'm trying to remember. I think he beat Ryan Rhodes, right? You guys are going to fill me in, right? Because when it comes to facts, I'm a little bit slower than the other strengths that I've got. We're talking about boxing and breaking fights down and stuff like that and the history. So who else did he fight, Canelo? There's a few more. So Rocky Fielding, Matthew Hatton, Liam Smith, Callum Smith, Ryan Rhodes. I'm sure he beat Ryan Rhodes. Who else did he fight? What other British fighters? I can't think. That's if you guys can think any more. So when you look back at that Canelo was incredible. But the Canelo now is just completely different. Like the Canelo that Mayweather beat was still an elite world champion, but he was young. But it's not the same Canelo now. So Billy Joe, unfortunately, is going to be fighting the best Canelo. The Canelo that's beaten Sergey Kovalev, the way he beat Callum Smith was just, I don't even know what to say. It just looked like, for Canelo, it really looked like, and I really was backing Smith. I was really rooting for Callum Smith, right? I didn't think he could win, but you know when you just have that, you're just holding on to hopefully he can pull something out and maybe win the fight with the size and the reach advantage and the strength. But it just looked like a sparring session. Canelo made that look like a slightly more than a kind of like a tough sparring session. But he never looked like he was under pressure. He looked as cool as ice, didn't get hurt, took all the shots. It was just really not much Callum Smith can do. And to be fair, I thought Callum Smith showed so much heart in that fight. He didn't go down, he didn't quit. He took his best punches, but he just couldn't hurt Canelo. He just couldn't. Whatever he did, Canelo nullified it. You know, if he started being aggressive coming forward, Canelo would cover up, slip, come back. If he tried to box Canelo long, Canelo would cut the ring down, you know, and just close the distance and take his jab away and just go on the inside. You know, there's nothing that he could have done. So it wasn't a bad performance from Callum Smith. It was just Canelo was just so good. And just seeing the fights that Canelo's had over the years and how he's improved so much since the Mayweather defeat and the things that he's doing, and he's just so strong. So I don't think Billy Joe could hurt him with combinations or punches. The only way Billy Joe can beat him is on points. But the thing that worries me and it always concerns me, will they give Billy Joe the decision? Let's say Billy Joe does beat him on points and it's a close fight, but Billy Joe wins. I don't think that they're not going to give him the fight because of the politics, because of how, you know, how much money Canelo makes and who he's with and stuff like that, and going to America. So, you know, when you're fighting Canelo and you're fighting for the British fighters, you're really kind of going into a situation of lose-lose, because it's tough enough to last a distance with him without getting knocked out. And if you don't get knocked out and you do go the distance and you give him a good fight or it's a close fight, you're not going to get the fight. So it's really tough, and it's a bit soul destroying. So I really would be gutted if he beat Billy Joe, because I've been a fan of Billy Joe since he started. So yeah, it's but I could see how Billy Joe could beat him though. I really do think, like everyone said, he's got the style to beat Canelo. He's got the fast hands, quick feet, he's slick. He's not easy to hit, Billy Joe. So I'm thinking, part of me's thinking it's not going to be easy for Canelo to hit Billy Joe. But then I'm thinking Canelo's just getting better every fight. And one of the things I was thinking about that I wanted to speak about, which I think is fascinating, I think it's brilliant that Canelo's doing what Mike Tyson done years ago. He's having loads of fights in 1 year. I don't know any other boxer that's doing that. Can any of you tell me in the box below Is there any other fighter that's fighting back to back consecutively and having, you know, several fights a year? It's brilliant what he's doing, because he's just keeping that momentum going. You know, that confidence is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and he's just getting better and better. So Canelo's not even giving a centimetre away to any of the other fighters. He's not even risking, like most fighters, if they're on Canelo's level, they'll take 6 months out after a big win and go on holiday with their family or enjoy themselves, right? He's not even putting weight on, or he's just staying in the gym, staying sharp and just fighting back to back. And you can't knock Canelo, because you can't say, well, he's just beating easy people, because he's not. He's having tough fights, and then obviously he'll take a bit of an easier one, then 2 tough fights in a row, and you know, going up in weight, going up to light heavyweight. I mean, that's just insane. He started off at a welterweight. To think that to start at welterweight and going up to light heavyweight, it's unheard of. And going back down to super middleweight, you know, it really just feels that he's invincible at the moment. So of all the times to Billy Joe to fight him, he's fighting him when he's at his very best. Because when the rumours, or when it was being said that Billy was going to fight him, I think Billy Joe had a better chance of beating him back then, because he wasn't as evolved. It was still difficult, but there was a point where Billy Joe had that momentum. You know, when he won those fights and he beat David Lemieux, you could see he was at his best. He was peaked. But because he's had such long layoffs, when you have long layoffs in boxing or anything in life, any level, you don't stay at that. You know, in the video games they call it God mode. You don't stay there. You kind of come down a notch or a couple of notches, and you have to be at your best. Obviously, it's obvious. I mean, everyone knows that. So it's going to take something incredible to beat Canelo. He's going to have a bad night, but I'm still going to back Billy Joe. I don't want to say, I don't want to, you know, I'm still going to back him, and I'm still going to watch the fight if the fight happens. And I still have confidence that Billy Joe can do it, that he can get a good game plan together, and he can, you know, make Canelo miss and just beat him on boxing, beat him on pure boxing, on hitting and not get hitting, and win on points. So I am confident he can do that. But I suppose the other questions are, and I don't know the answer to this question, maybe some of you don't, or you think you can, let me know. I don't know, can Billy Joe take his power? I'm sure he's obviously got a chin, he couldn't have got to the level he's got to, but could he take those body shots, the accumulation? If Canelo's hitting him regularly with those sickening liver shots and body shots, can he take that power? Can he take the headshots? But something that just come off the top of my head, I'll just say it anyway, right? Because I try and be as truthful and honest as I can when I do these videos. I don't sit down and make notes. That's not my style. I just put the camera on and I just tell the truth and say what I think and what comes to my head and my heart. So when Amir Khan fought Canelo, and I've no disrespect to Amir Khan, I knew he wasn't going to win that fight. I thought Canelo was going to knock him out. But the first 5-6 rounds, you've got to give Khan credit. He boxed really well. He boxed the way that you would hope someone would fight against Canelo. You know, keeping it long, keeping him on the jab, combinations and getting out. It was perfect game plan from Khan. And if you're trying to look at some kind of avenue, something to relate back to Billy Joe, again, no disrespect, I think Billy Joe Saunders is a better fighter than Amir Khan, but some might disagree. Even though they're different weights, right? But Khan was a great fighter, great hands. I'm gonna do a video on him on another occasion, but you just think, well, you know, Canelo was having trouble at the start, but the difference is we can't always hold on to that, because Canelo turned it around and knocked Khan out and broke him down. And it was weird, because it was one of those fights where if you were scoring the fights on points, the Khan-Canelo fight, you'd have to give Khan the first 4 or 5 rounds, or some people say 6, right? Something like that. But the way I actually saw it, right, from understanding boxing and watching it for years, you could see that Khan was winning on the boxing match. Almost like if it was an amateur fight, obviously, which it weren't, Khan was winning on points. He was touching more and getting out. You know, Canelo was getting touched. But you could see Canelo was winning the fight. Psychologically, you know, Khan was almost, He was boxing, but he was running from the power. He was scared. He knew, if I get hit, I'm going to get hurt. You know, he didn't want to get involved, which you can't blame him. That was the correct fight. So, although Khan, yes, was winning on points, you knew it was only a matter of time before Canelo got to him, and that's what he did. He started hitting him with hard. I started noticing the body shots, and Khan started to slow down. And then when Khan stayed in the centre of the ring, he caught him with that sickening, beautiful. Was it an overhand right hand or something like that? I can't remember exactly. He knocked him out. So that's the thing with Canelo. You know, Billy Joe could be winning. I could easily see Billy Joe winning the first 6 rounds on boxing, but can he keep it up, right? I think he could, but I think he's got to be match fit. Billy Joe's got to be in the best shape of his life. He can't come into the fight with hopefully too many outside problems. He's got to be at his most confident, fittest, best shape, hopefully the right sparring, and just put on a performance of his life. And maybe Canelo just will find it difficult. So that's how I feel about it. But my only worry is, right, that Canelo's just going to go to another level and end up adapting to Billy Joe's style and stopping him, or just beating him and him getting stopped or winning on points. Because every single fight we all hold on to. When Canelo fought Kovalev, we said, probably he's going to lose. Kovalev's too big for him. You know, he won't be able to do it. He done it. When he fought Callum Smith, even me, we're like, Callum Smith's huge. He's 6'3". He's got a chance of winning here. He done it. He always adapts. He's been doing that since the Mayweather fight. There's many other fighters that he's beaten that I didn't mention. You know, Cotto, Mosley. And I know some of the fighters, obviously, you've beaten. Some of them weren't in their prime, but they're still good enough. They're still dangerous enough. And for most of the fights he's had, he's just beaten people very easily. But to be fair, I can't see him beating Billy Joe easily. Knowing how good Billy Joe is, but he can do it. That's the thing. It's it's a difficult ask. But the question for me is, what shape will Billy Joe be in? I think he should have a couple of warm-up fights. That's the thing for me. I don't think Billy Joe should take the fight. He has to have at least one more fight before he gets in with Canelo, I would have thought. Going in from the Martin Murray fight into the Canelo fight, it just feels suicide. It just feels crazy. A bit like when Tyson Fury fought Wilder in the first fight off the back of a couple of fighting really nobody's warm-ups. So these are some of the questions that I'm asking, and I don't know all the answers. So that's my thoughts on it. I think it's I don't want to say it. It's horrible to say, but I think Canelo's going to win. He's just too good for everyone. But I also do think Billy Joe has got the ability to beat him. But the question is, can he get it right on the night? And if he comes in at his best, and Canelo is anything below his best, I think Billy Joe can beat him on points. He can beat him by being in and out, being slick and frustrating him and making him miss and making him pay. But it's a big ask. But he should go for it, man. There's no losing to Canelo is no shame. But at the same time, I'm sure someone like Billy Joe is not really going to want to settle for having a good fight and not winning. He's a winner. He's going to want to win, and he's undefeated. But I don't think we've seen the best of Billy Joe yet. I think we've seen some of the best of Canelo, and obviously, I think we're going to see Canelo's going to peak a bit more. But I don't know how much better Canelo can be, because he just looked invincible in the last couple of fights. And that's the thing that fascinates me about Canelo. If you look at the Khan fight and the Kovalev fight, he's losing the first several rounds. First 4 or 5 rounds or something like that, right? Similar. Kovalev boxed Canelo, kind of similar methodology to how Khan fought him. Keeping it long, keeping him on the jab, boxing him. But once it gets past the latter stages, once it goes to the 7th, 8th round, he just goes to that next gear, and that's when he takes people out and just breaks them down with vicious body shots and head shots and such psychological pressure with his footwork and constantly coming forward, and he's just flawless. So that's the thing. That's what's worrying. You know, Billy Joe could win the first 6 rounds, and Canelo can just switch it up, go to another level. But I don't know. I'm not 100% on this fight. It's because there's many different factors. If it was Billy Joe going in at his best after having, you know, a lot of fights and beating a couple of other elite champions, I'd back Billy Joe. I'd say I think Billy Joe will win. But because of the inactivity and because Canelo has been having fights and he's going to have another fight now, and he's been building such momentum and he's been evolving and getting better each fight and adapting and growing. And Billy Joe seems like he's kind of been frozen out. I don't know what's going on with the matchmaking. I don't know about that. So it's a bit of a question mark. But I'm still going to back Billy Joe, and I think he can do it. But it's going to be difficult. But yeah, if I had to say, I think Canelo somehow will get the win. But let's see, because let's see what happens. All right. So I'll see you next fight. Let's talk boxing.